VMX Show Season 4.
Hello everybody. Welcome to the VMX Show, Season 4, Episode 5. 4-5. It's like a level of Super Meat Boy. It's the one with all the wearing blades of death. No guest this week, so I could kind of take it easy. It's just me. I got some stuff to talk about, got your questions and comments, got the news, got it all, bitch. I also play some music for you, and I started off with a song from Mortal Kombat, aka Mortal Kombat 9, the game that came out this year. That was the Subway. So there you go. The Subway being originally a stage in Mortal Kombat 3, so if you're playing like story mode or whatever, that plays later in the story mode. So let's get to your questions and comments right away. Let's see. Oh, we're going to start things off really classy. Here's a comment from Razarath92. Have you ever heard the poem, I Have a Gentle Cock? If so, did you laugh your ass off? I've heard what you're talking about. The poem is actually called My Gentle Cock, not I Have a Gentle Cock. He says I have a gentle cock, and the thing is, he's not talking about a penis, like a cock. He's talking about like a rooster, I think. But I'm going to read this poem out to you guys because it is funny. And no, I didn't laugh my ass off because I did giggle, but it's not like a laugh out loud, fall on the floor, rafflecopter kind of thing to me. But it is funny. So here, I'm going to read this to you guys. I have a gentle cock who crows the day. He gets me up early, his prayers to say. I like that he gets me up early. I have a gentle cock. He's descended from the great. His comb is of red coral. His tail is of black. That doesn't even rhyme, that stanza there. His legs are azure, so gentle, so small. His spurs are of silver, down to the wall. His eyes are of crystal, set all in amber, and every night he perches in my lady's chamber. That last part's funny, too. But it's not like laugh out loud funny. Like, once you get over the, ha ha ha, he's saying cock, it could be funnier, But that's to answer your question. Mr. Lover of Ganja says, if you were to pick one comic book character to have a video game made about them, who would you choose? I'd like to see a flaming carrot game. I think that would be awful. I'm going to go really off the grid here and not pick a superhero. I think that it would be really hilarious if they made a video game out of Milk and Cheese. Milk and Cheese is an indie comic. It's a comedy thing created by this guy named Evan Dorkin. And all they do is just fuck shit up and curse and destroy things and kill people and beat people up. And, it's just general debauchery. And I think it would be a great comic to just go around and just ruin people's shit and just listen to their, little comments, So I think that would be good. And that would be funny, at least. Sigma9.net says, I couldn't fit this into a comment on the video. I did try to keep it short. It just didn't happen. Sorry, man. Well, before I read your comment, don't worry about that. You know, if your thoughts are long because they're, you know, elaborate, that's fine. If you're just going to ramble, then fuck you, but I know that you're not rambling here. He says, cheers for the response in this week's VMX show episode. Interesting story behind the Gooster song. Is it Gooster or Guster? You know what? I don't care. I've done that quite a lot with music. I've caught it in the background and mentally noted the lyrics. Also, that song by Anathema was pretty good. No, it wasn't. It was pretty awesome. Sorry. On to the controller question. I've never been a fan of the DualShock, mainly my own fault for never owning a PlayStation 1, 2, or 3 or spending much time with said systems. My favorite pad, and still to this day, is the GameCube pad. So comfortable. Let me break in here for a minute. Well, the GameCube pad is extremely comfortable, and I actually thought about saying that, but it also is a big pain in the ass if you're into fighting games, which is why there weren't that many fighting games on the GameCube because of the non-standard pad. So, if you're into fighting games like I am, you want a pad that is a little bit more standard than that. So that's why I didn't choose the GameCube pad, but I was thinking of it. I'll stop here in case you read this on the show. No one likes reading walls of text. Oh, don't worry about it. Maybe I could be a guest on the show sometime when I get my headset, if I can find a topic and my voice actually fits. Yeah, sure, no problem. You're more than welcome on the show. There's a little bit more. Very much enjoyed the Super Meat Boy feature. Keep up the awesome. Oh, so, you know, let me stop here and talk about features because I did hint at it last week. But I have officially already announced on my channel what the next few features are going to be after Mortal Kombat. But let me talk about it here. After Mortal Kombat, which is going to be a long one, I'm going to do a Let's Play of Mega Man 2, and then I'm going to do a Let's Play of Final Doom, and it's going to be half of Final Doom, because Final Doom is really 2 games in one. So I'm going to be doing TNT Evolution, and then after that I'm going to do a Let's Play of the RPG Chronicles of a Dark Lord Episode 1 Tides of Fate, which if you listen to last week's show, you know all about that. I've been talking about it. I did do one video on it already, but I want to do like a full Let's Play. So we'll talk about that more in the future. So let's get back to questions and comments. Vitali97 says, this isn't related to any video game, but hell, I love your take on things. Would you rather spend an hour in a closet with Jeffrey Dahmer or spend a night with your face buried in Rosie O'Donnell's full bush crotch? Okay, that's the easiest answer ever. I would pick Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm assuming that you mean he's alive in this scenario. And the reason that I would pick Jeffrey Dahmer, well, okay, a few reasons. One is that I don't think he would, if he was alive and everything, I don't think he would want me as a victim because I don't have dark skin, and that was his profile. He went after dark-skinned men. Secondly, the fact is that Jeffrey Dahmer was a rather small man who took his victims by surprise. I'm pretty sure I could beat the shit out of him if it came down to that. And lastly, I just might start talking to the guy and like doing an interview with him, which would be interesting. That's another thing. But actually, no, there's one more reason that I would pick him over Rosie O'Donnell. Assuming that he did kill me, at least I would be dead and not having to live with having had my face in Rosie O'Donnell's crotch. Which, first of all, I don't, have you ever seen the movie Labyrinth? In Labyrinth, there was a whole thing about the bog of eternal stench that if you just touch it, like with your foot, the stink would never get off of you. I imagine Rosie O'Donnell's crotch being like the bog of eternal stench that you would never get the smell on. I can't walk around, the rest of my life. I'd probably kill myself anyway with a stinky, Rosie O'Donnell crotch face. So there's that too. All right, all kidding aside, let's move on. Sampay32 asks, who is your favorite BlazBlue character? Probably Bang, I guess. I don't know. It's been a long time since I played BlazBlue, so sorry that I couldn't give you like a real definitive answer there. Pyote asked me, and this is the hot button question this week, Have you heard of Bill S-978, and if so, what are your views? Okay, there's a big panic about this because people who don't know shit about anything have heard that Congress is currently considering this bill, and they haven't read it, or if they have read it, they've cherry-picked pieces of it, and they think that it's going to prosecute people for putting up Let's Plays or commentary videos of video games, and this is not the case at all. First off, this is something that actually already is a law. It's Title 18, and it also references Title 17. And Bill 978 is an amendment to those, which increases the scope to different types of performances. And it does not include derivative works such as commentary videos. First off, second off, the government doesn't have the power to prosecute people for this. Firstly, it has to be completely 100% in the hands of the copyright maker, or the copyright owner. So let's say you were doing a playthrough of like Super Meat Boy. Team Meat would have to look on YouTube, find the playthrough, and they would have to lodge a complaint to the U.S. government to prosecute you. But the thing is, they can't just pick one person to prosecute. They have to prosecute everybody that does it. So there's that. And the fact is, because it's a derivative work, it's protected against that kind of thing due to the Fair Use Clause. The Fair Use Clause allows you to use copyrighted material in certain situations, such as parody, educational purposes, and purposes that do not, and this is very important, purposes that do not diminish the the work's value, which means you're not taking money away from them. So there's that too. If you want it to be explained in full and by somebody who is a lawyer in training, Kakeo Silverton, I'll even spell her YouTube username out. She's been on the show before. She's a YouTube friend of mine. Kakeyosilverton. She is a law student who read the law and read the Bill 978, which is a proposed amendment to Title 18, and she also read Title 17 just because it was referenced, and she read them all in her entirety, and she gives a well-thought-out and intelligent and educated response to Bill 978 in her video. It's right now, as I'm speaking, it's her most recent video. It's called Bill 978, The Internets Are in a Rage, and she explains in no uncertain terms why this does not apply to performances of video games over YouTube. Okay, this kind of thing, and I'm gonna go. I recommend you watch her video. I really do. It's 8 minutes of sanity in this insane world that we live in. But just to go into it a little bit further, when they talk about copyrighted works and live performances, they're talking about movies and music and TV shows. They're talking about people who pirate movies and put them out on the internet on streams, sites like Ninja Video that had been shut down, or Mega Video. You know, that's what they're going after. People who put songs, like copyrighted songs, on YouTube. That might be a problem. Those are the people that have to worry. The people who are putting up, full albums and stuff. I've put up songs, but they're all works that I either have permission of the artist or I've created myself. So, the only songs that I've put up are the Zombie Sneak Attack stuff, which, if there's a copyright, it's not copyrighted. First of all, it's we purposely put that in the public domain, which is so that people can spread it and even create derivative works from it. And also, I had the Marielle Thomas song, which I had her permission specifically to remix the song and put it on my YouTube, which she was very happy that I did that. But there's people who put, okay, here's the new, Metallica album or whatever. That's not allowed. Now, I know you say, well, you play music on the show. I play video game music. You know what I mean? And I don't play video game music if it's like something that you could buy in stores, or if you can, I'm going to tell you about that. They're going after people who copyright works where the copyright is worth more than $2,500 and that you are putting it up in mass, meaning 10 or more public performances in the course of 180 days of different copyrighted works. They're going after people who are putting up movies, music, and TV shows and streaming them on the internet. It has nothing to do with video games because you cannot stream a video game. You can only stream footage of yourself playing a video game. That is not a public performance of a copyrighted work at all. Okay, it's using a copyrighted work to create what is known as a derivative work, because it's something that you've created using something that's copyrighted, not you just putting something that's copyrighted out there. And I hope you guys can understand this a little better. Calm the fuck down and not worry about it so much, okay? So let's move on to other questions and comments. Let's see. All right, that was from Peyote. So I hope that answers your question, Peyote, and all the other people that have asked me the same question. E11 or E11 Network says, "Don't worry, bro. I've been having it, the 1,000-Year Door, for 7 years already. I usually beat it once or twice per year." I know. I'm just saying. Why don't you play some other games and just move on? There's so many other things to play. I think you're missing out by playing the same game over and over again. I used to do that. I used to play like my favorite games over and over, and then I said, but I'm missing out on other stuff. Sexual Sephira. Sexual Sephira, I think she works at Kazareth. Not sure about that, actually. But she says, "Awesome show, Necro, and great interview. Looking forward to seeing the hard copies of Chronicles of a Dark Lord in your giveaway video." Yes, that should be soon. Tanya, who was my guest last week, and the CEO of Kazareth Studios, said that she'll be sending out my copies of the game on Tuesday, the 5th, so I should have them by the end of this week. Let's see. Game Eternal 777 says, "That woman Tanya sounds really hot. Sorry, but it's the truth. It makes me wonder how she looks. Come on, Necro, my man. You gotta have some insider's info, right?" No comment. Anyway, I'm psyched to hear about episode 2. I just went on their channel, and you're right, the music is incredible. Yeah, I'll let her know that you said that. She was very appreciative of your comment. She's into the ladies, though, dude, so sorry, you don't stand a chance. Splashfire 0X says, "Did you ever play the Rhythm Heaven game on DS? And if so, what do you think of it?" And there's been a sort of a mix-up. Somebody else said, "Isn't it called Rhythm Paradise?" And he says in North America it's called Rhythm Heaven. Either way, by any name, I haven't played it. The only rhythm games I play are like, a Guitar Hero or Rock Band, because they have the kind of music that I like. Roy Story says, "A question after hearing the King of Fighters one, if Capcom vs. SNK 3 ever got made, which Capcom and SNK characters who are not in any previous CVS games would you like to see appear?" Well, first of all, I have to point out that there was a Capcom vs. SNK 3. It just didn't have that title. It was called SVC Chaos. A bit of a rare game. To get a copy of it for, I think it was only on, other than arcade, it was only on the Neo Geo, PlayStation 2, and the Xbox, and it's very, very difficult to find. So if you ever see a copy of it, snatch it up. It's very hard to find. But if they made another one, I mean, I would want to have, like, from the Capcom side, stick in some of the Street Fighter 4 guys, That would be cool. 13 Duct Tape Ninja 13 says, "Man, fucking Duke Nukem. All those years of hype I had to suffer from. I'm sure hope I won't have to suffer for more years of Duke Nukem bitching and defending." Oh, you will, trust me. It's going to be like, "Oh, the game sucks. Oh, come on, it's not that bad," I wish people would hurry up and get over the game already so we can get on towards better games. Well, you can. You have the ability to move on towards other games. Don't worry about them if they're stuck on Duke Nukem. It doesn't have to affect you. Chris Collett 222 says, "Hey, Necro, can't wait to be..." Oh, dude, you spelled wait, W-A-T-E? Come on, man. All right. "Can't wait to be back on the VMX show, but my question is, what has been your best Punch-Out game you like the best?" And I'm pulling the plug on Game Talk, but you can still be the last guest on the show. Oh, man, I gotta tell you guys about this. Chris Collett had a show on YouTube called Game Talk where he did commentary. Well, okay, he played a game, and then he would have a guest come on and do commentary while he's playing the game. And we did an episode. It was like an hour long. We played several games. We played Super Punch-Out, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, a couple of other things. And then at the end, he says, footage is no good. The microphone wasn't plugged in. Shit. And I told him I wouldn't be back on it until he had a proper recording system set up. But, okay, best Punch-Out game. I like the Wii one the best. Punch-Out for the Wii. Jazzmaster909 says, yay, TNT coming soon. Glad you're excited about that. I am too. Awesome3Gamer says, why don't you make gameplay videos on the DS or PSP that much? I don't make gameplay videos on the PSP at all. And I'm not going to dignify this with an answer. Let me move on. Dave Cornfan says, great episode, man. The interview was also great. You said your favorite novel is The Stand. Have you ever read the comics adaptation by Marvel? It's one of my favorite comics. I have read it, and they're actually doing a fairly good job of it so far. It's still going. Just a surprise. Marvel did adaptations of the Dark Tower books, and they were terrible, terrible adaptations. So I was surprised when The Stand turned out so good. Okay, here's an interesting question. Max Bender says, how much more powerful do you think the Wii is over the GameCube? Wikipedia states the Wii is roughly 1.5 to 2 times as powerful, but it seems to me that my Wii is simply a GameCube with fancy motion-sensitive controller. No, that's not true. That's an idiotic thing to say. I haven't seen any games on the Wii that look better than the best the GameCube has to offer, like Resident Evil 4. Well, first of all, you have to remember that Resident Evil 4 is also on the Wii, and then it looks better. And, I mean, I don't know, like, have you seen, like, what about Call of Duty Black Ops? That's on the Wii. Do you forget that? I mean, it may not look as good as Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 because it's standard definition, but, I mean, come on. I mean, what about... I don't understand... I don't understand the question. Just because you haven't seen it means it's not out there? You're not paying attention. What about GoldenEye? The GameCube couldn't have handled that. No, not at all. And then he says, the Wii being fully backwards compatible, which has nothing to do with anything, and despite its size, the size has nothing to do with it. The goal is to make things smaller. Making a huge console does not mean it's more powerful. The Atari 5200 was fucking gigantic. The Xbox One was way bigger than the Xbox 360. I can't read this. I gotta move on. Adelanoth says, have you ever played any of the Mother or Earthbound games? What do you think of them, and would you consider doing a playthrough of it? I would love to see you play it. Hate to disappoint you, but I think the Earthbound games are highly overrated and boring. I don't think they're any good at all. I don't understand why the second game, Mother 2, also known as Earthbound here, is so beloved, because I think it's a poor excuse for an RPG. I would never do a playthrough of it. So sorry to burst your bubble there. Sexual Sephira returns to say Tanya equals lesbian game developer for the win. Lol. LOL. But seriously, though, awesome interview, Necro. Just judging from what Tanya was saying and where she wants to go with her company. Okay, so she's not from Kizaru. She's just a fan. I have this feeling that we're all going to be talking about the Chronicles of the Dark Lord series as much, if not more, than Final Fantasy in the near future. There's just something refreshing about her games. It's like she reinvented the JRPG for the better. I agree. I've been playing Chronicles of the Dark Lord. I'm right at the end. I'm in the realm of the Fae. So basically, I have some leveling to do, and I have to go into the last battle. I just beat Hazizus. I was level 34, which I found that is a little low to be fighting Hazizus, but I kicked his ass. I'm ready. I'm ready to beat this, and I'm ready to play episode 2. I'm really, really loving it. And that's the company goal. The goal of Kazareth is to imagine this 10 years down the line. The 3 major RPG series, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Chronicles of a Dark Lord. They want to be the main competitor, as Tanya said last week. So, kind of a big deal there. Alright, Jazzmaster909, and I gotta say to you, make sure when you guys submit a comment, only hit submit once, because when you hit it twice, even if you remove the first comment, the second one gets marked as spam. And I unmark them as spam when I see them, but just try and do that. Jazzmaster909 says, Thanks again for answering my questions, Necro. Appreciate it. In one of your Doom videos, you stated that Episode 4, Map 2, is the most difficult level in Doom 1. What's the most difficult maps you've encountered in other Dooms, like such as Doom 2, Final Doom, Doom 64? Doom 2 is not really difficult at all. There's one level that I think it's called the Tenements that can be difficult because there's some archviles running around in a lot of wide open space. So the first few times it can be kind of a daunting task. Final Doom, TNT Evolution is really easy. It does the last level kind of has that part that's a little bit of trial and error, so that can be a pain in the ass, but it's not really a big deal. And Plutonia is hard throughout the whole thing. That's just a hard game. Doom 64, when I played on the N64, there were some levels that were really hard, but when I played on PC, it's easier because of the better controls. So nothing really on the level of Episode 4 Map 2 from Doom 1. I think that level is so hard because you're coming off of the first level, which is not that difficult, but you could have easily gotten really hurt by trying to get all the secrets, and there's not really enough ammo or life in the first level to carry around to the second one, which is more difficult than the levels after it. I think that if they shuffled it around and made that level later on in the episode, it would have been perfectly acceptable. Moving on, Usora says, thanks for the info. I'm actually playing Persona 3 Portable on PSP now. Have you played it? No, I haven't. If so, what do you... Okay, guys, can we stop asking me this question? This is the question that I get like a million times every episode. Have you played this game? If so, what do you think of it? And then I gotta sit there, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. Or yes, I have, it was good. Or yes, I have, it was bad. Please, can we come up with some questions that I can actually offer some insight? Why do you guys have to know my opinion on every fucking game? Could we please just move on past that? Okay. Dreadnought2448 says, hey, Necro, great episode as always. The Chronicles of a Dark Lord sounds like a great series I would like to play. Well, you should play it. Check out KazaraStudios.com. You can get the first game for $10 downloadable copy, $15 hard copy. And Episode 2 should be coming out later this year. My question is, do you think Nintendo or Square Enix might be willing to bring the Dragon Quest Anniversary Collection to North America? It would make me very happy if they did, because parts 1 through 3 and 7 are the only ones I don't own, and I've heard they're very rare. Thanks. Okay, first of all, I have to burst your bubble a little bit. 7 is not on there. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the only games that are on it. It's the original NES versions of 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, no, wait, I'm sorry, it's just 1, 2, 3. It's just 1, 2, 3, because 4 they didn't include. And a lot of people are saying they should have included 4 because it was on the NES, but I think the reason they didn't is because it's on the DS. It's just 1, 2, and 3. It's the original NES versions. They're not enhanced. I think there's a small chance it may come over. A small chance it may come over. But I think maybe not. Yeah. 7 is kind of rare. 7 was only on the PlayStation, and I'm hoping they'll remake that for like 3DS or something. But if you want to get 1, 2, and 3, your best bet right now is to hunt down those Game Boy Color versions. So there's that. Alright, so that's it for questions and comments. Before I get to the news, I have a few things I wanted to talk about, and I am afforded the time to talk about them since I don't have a guest, so I have extra time here. One has to do with, I have a little bit of I guess you'd say a rant to talk about. I have something to, so there's that. And also, the other thing, actually, I'll wait till I get to the news, because I do have to do a news story about it, and then I'll include it I'll include my thoughts on it when I get to the news, because I do have a lot to say about that, and something that I want to plug, so we'll get to that in a bit. First of all, I want to tell you guys something, and this goes out to everybody that's listening, and, everybody in general. You guys, do you not know what a fucking emulator is? It's very easy to understand, and I wanted to do a video on this, but I wasn't sure whether it would be, is this a clearing confusion, or is this a hey assholes? I don't know which. I think it's both, so you know what? It's neither. I'm going to do it on the YouTube channel, on the VMX show. So, amazing here. I can't fathom how people, what they think an emulator is. It's amazing. I've gotten comments in the past, and I've just ignored them, basically, I've ignored them, like saying, "Oh, you didn't really play the game. You just played an emulator, which emulates the game. That's not the real game." And I'm like, God, does this person not know what an emulator is? And I just ignored it because these are just random, like, people being trolls, and, hate has got to hate, and I don't worry about that. But I got a comment from somebody on one of my Mortal Kombat videos, and I was in awe. I was in awe of this person's comment, and not in a good way. And they said to me, I can't believe that they said this, but it was on my Mortal Kombat for Sega Genesis video. And I can't believe it. It's just, they said the emulator spelled Raiden wrong. It says Raiden R-A-Y-D-E-N instead of R-A-I-D-E-N. The emulator spelled it wrong. Let's have a moment of silence for this person's common sense. All right. Okay, first of all, I can understand being a little thrown off by the fact that it was spelled that way. All the home versions of Mortal Kombat, and I believe Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 as well, I think those 3 games, they did this. They spelled Raiden's name with a Y. I don't understand why they did it. They only did it in the home versions, because the arcade versions of Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 had it spelled R-A-I. I'm sure there's some deep reason to it that Ed Boon could probably tell you, but I don't know. I think that maybe they wanted people to pronounce it a certain way, and they were, I don't know. I have no fucking clue. French last name? But that being said, emulators don't emulate games. They emulate systems. Okay? When you emulate a game, that's a misnomer. Okay, you are playing the actual game. You're playing what's called a ROM. Now I know I've had people say comments, this isn't the game, this is just a ROM. No, the ROM is a game. Okay. When people create a game, let's say you make an NES game. You create it in your programming and all that, you do all that shit, the C and the assembly, whatever the fuck it is. And then what you do is you compile all your data into a ROM. And then you take that ROM and you copy it onto a cartridge. And the system plays the ROM for you. The cartridge is merely the physical media that contains the ROM file. Okay? It's like putting a ROM on a floppy disk or a CD or tape. Cartridge is the same thing. Cartridges are preferred means of ROM. ROM stands for read-only memory, by the way. And what that means is that you can't override it. Okay? That's why for games to have save files, they required a battery backup. That's like Zelda was the first game to have save files. It has a lithium battery in the cartridge that will save your file, okay? But you can't write over the data on the cartridge. You can't. Nothing can be put on the cartridge by the system itself. You can put a ROM on it using a computer and special equipment, but that's how it works. Now, when people want to play games on emulators, what they do is they have that same equipment and they just do the reverse. They take the ROM, they copy the ROM from the cartridge to their computer. It's called dumping the ROM. And then the emulator, what an emulator is, I'm going to give you the definition of what an emulator is. An emulator is a computer program. It is software that makes one computer behave like another computer. And it first came around in the late 80s, I think 1987, when they used emulators to get programs to run on non-native operating systems by running a software that lets people play something or run a program on a program that was meant for a different type of computer. For example, This is how people play Windows games on their Mac or Linux computers because they're running what's called a Windows emulator. This is how I'm able to play Doom because there's a source port that basically acts like a DOS emulator. Well, actually, that's a little different. Source ports are a little different, but it's sort of the same concept. That's all an emulator does. It emulates the actual system, okay? Now, some emulators are better than others, and there can be mistakes made, and these mistakes are generally, it won't render the graphics properly because it's not, whatever. But emulators are not going to change the text in a game, okay? The emulator doesn't do that. You can do that by hacking the ROM, going into the ROM, decompiling it, and then changing what's in there using a utility, and then recompiling it into a ROM and playing an emulator, and that's how you get, like, Super Mario Dick Brothers or whatever the fuck's out there, you know what I mean? Or, like, I played a hacked ROM version of Chrono Trigger on my channel that had a different translation than the original Ted Woosley piece of shit translation. So, can we please just put these misunderstandings behind us? Emulators can't change a character's name. People can do that. I'm sure there are probably hacked versions of Mortal Kombat for Genesis or Super NES or whatever that spell Raiden the right way. I know there's a hack version for the arcade that adds Ermac into the game. I mentioned that in Urban Legends of Video Gaming. But you are playing the actual game. There is no difference between the ROM and the cartridge, okay? The cartridge contains the ROM. All you've done is taken the ROM off of the cartridge and put it onto the PC, which is where it originated, by the way, and played it on an emulator. And let me tell you something, when people are developing games for these sort of systems, and really the only one around right now, there's two of them around, would be the DS and the 3DS. These are the only ROM-based systems around. Everything else uses optical media, which is a completely different thing. And I don't even want to get into that. I guarantee you, they're testing their games in an emulator. Do you think that when Nintendo is making fucking Pilot Wings Resort or Kid Icarus Uprising or whatever the fuck, that they gotta, every time they make a change, they gotta put it on a cartridge or a card and put it in their 3DS and test it? No, they run a fucking emulator. They say, oh, you're not really playing the game. Fuck you, you dick. Alright, well, I got that out of the way, and I got a big smile on my face from doing it. I love taking people downtown and just, giving them one in the brown, and by one I mean my foot. Let's get to the news, but first I'll play a little music. I played some Mortal Kombat for you earlier, so here's some Street Fighter. Little Street Fighter there for you. That was from Street Fighter 3. The song is called, what's it fucking called? It's called You Blow My Mind. It's the theme of Dudley, boxer from the UK. So let's get to the news. I got some pretty major news, got some interesting stories here. First off, the United States Supreme Court has struck down the California violent video game law, which would have allowed the government to prosecute and or fine video game retailers for selling M-rated games to minors. Now, I know some of you thinking, well, they shouldn't be selling games to minors. That is correct, but it's not really about video games. It's about the rights of the retailers and everything. It's hard to explain. I went into this already, but here we have it. This is what the Supreme Court had to say for themselves. Video games qualify for First Amendment protection. Like protected books, plays, and movies, they communicate ideas through familiar literary devices and features distinctive to the medium, and the basic principles of freedom of speech do not vary with a new and different communication medium. Justice Thomas ignores the holding of Erznosnik, a previous court ruling essentially stating that youth do not need to be protected by the government from freedom of speech, and denies that persons under 18 have any constitutional right to speak or be spoken to without their parents' consent. He cites no case, state or federal, supporting this view, and to our knowledge, there is none. So, great thing there. It's about the government's... They shouldn't have the right to step in and tell them what to do. I mean, they should do it on their own, though. Here's a huge dick move from Capcom, which is a surprise, because I had a lot of respect for Capcom. But starting with their upcoming game Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D for the Nintendo 3DS, Capcom seems to be letting you only have one save file on your game, which is unerasable forever. That meaning they're trying to go after the secondary market, used games. And I know this is a huge issue, and I'll explain why it is a huge issue. We all think of buying used games as being very convenient and affordable and everything, but here's the thing. The game developers are suffering. They sell one copy of the game to the retailer, and then the retailer sells it to somebody. That person sells it back to the retailer sells it to somebody else. On average, GameStop sells the same copy of a game 6 times. How many times did the developer get paid for that? Once and once only. So there are millions of people out there playing games who basically haven't paid for them. I mean, they paid the GameStop. They are GameStop customers, but they're not customers of Capcom or Nintendo or whoever, you know. So it is a problem, but trying to combat it, they're being dicks. So Resident Evil The Mercenaries has one save file, meaning if you I don't know, you and the wife want to both play it, you better get 2 fucking copies of it, or share the same save file. And it's not like you could beat it and then erase everything and then she could beat it, because you can't erase your fucking save. What a fucking dick move. Capcom, I am disappointed! Yeah! You guys like it when I get fired up over stupid shit like that. How the fuck Don't buy it! Don't buy it! This is the only way they're gonna learn! Don't pirate it. Don't even play it. It's just a glorified fucking bonus mode from a previous game. I mean, what a fucking dick move. I wasn't even this fired up over it when I read it, but reading it out loud, it's made it real for me. I mean, Capcom, I am disappointed. I'm also disappointed with Nintendo, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But before I get to any of that, here's some sort of good news. We don't really know what's going on, but apparently Activision has registered domains for something called GoldenEye Reloaded. We don't know. It's apparently a thing, but we don't know what it is. Rumors is that it will be a remake of the original GoldenEye for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, not meaning that they would adapt the Wii game to those systems, but that they would take the original and put it on like PSN and Xbox Live Arcade. I don't know. I don't think... that's a stupid rumor. I'm going to shoot that down right now. The original was made by Rare. Rare is owned by Microsoft. It will never be on PSN. If they could reimagine it, but I would imagine that they would just maybe do an HD version of the Wii game. I think that rumor's false, so there's that too. Some Mortal Kombat news. The first downloadable character, Scarlet, came out. There were a little bit of glitchiness with that, but the second downloadable content character, Kenshi, will be available this Tuesday, the 5th. No news yet on the third downloadable content character, which is Rain, or the fourth and final one, which we don't know who it is. But the strong rumor is that it might be Fujin. For those of you that want to know about these characters, Scarlet is a completely original character that has never appeared in a Mortal Kombat game before, although she has been rumored to be a character like a red version of Katana sort of thing. Kind of like Ermac, except Ermac, sort of existed before that. I don't even want to get into it. I did it in Urban Legends. Kenshi from Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance and onwards. Rain first appeared in Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and we don't know who the fourth character is, but if it's Fujin, he was from Mortal Kombat 4. Actually, he first appeared in Mythology Sub-Zero and then appeared as a player character in Mortal Kombat 4. Moving on, Sony's woes continue. They have now asked their CEO to resign. No news yet on whether or not he is going to resign. We're talking about Kaz here, but they have asked his resignation at a shareholder meeting recently. Here's some news about L.A. Noire, and this is not good news. Apparently, L.A. Noire's Team Bondi is under investigation for supposedly harmful working conditions. The investigation follows claims from Team Bondi's employees that management kept developers under a persistent crunch time, strong-arming staff to work upwards of 110 hours per week without adequate compensation. Wow, they said that also the bosses were very hostile and that it was an intimidating work environment. So that could be bad news for Team Bondi. More news on that as it develops. There's downloadable content coming out for Dissidia Duodecim Final Fantasy, which includes new music, songs from Final Fantasy 5, 6, and 11, and costumes, new additional costumes, which will be for Bartz, Terra, and Shantotto. So if you're a big Dissidia fan, you might want to be on the lookout for that. Moving on, there's been a law passed in the Netherlands that makes it a crime to steal items in a virtual game. Now, they're not talking about, like stealing something within the game, but they're talking about bullying, basically, and using these sort of tactics or extortion to steal items from somebody. This came from a case in 2008 where a 13-year-old boy was threatened with physical violence with a knife from one of his friends unless he handed over some items in RuneScape. Of course, that should be illegal even if it didn't involve virtual items, because it's a threat, it's assault. So there's that as well. But in the Netherlands, they have passed this law, which I think is an important law, saying that these items do have monetary value in the real world, so it is considered theft to take them unless you're doing so within the confines of the game, in which case, the game's own laws apply. So that's what's going on there. The person who was prosecuted for this was found guilty and was sentenced with 160 hours of forced labor and 4 months in a conditional juvenile detention facility. So what that would be, basically what they got is 4 years in jail and 160 hours of what we would call community service. They call it forced labor because they don't mince words like we do, I guess. Here's some Nintendo good news before I get to the Nintendo crappy news. So here's new downloads from Nintendo services coming out on the Virtual Console. Now available is Final Fantasy VI. They're calling it Final Fantasy III, but, well, I went into that in clearing confusion. Final Fantasy VI coming out for the Wii's Virtual Console. Ages ago, evil beings created powerful creatures called Espers and unleashed them against each other. The resulting battles turned into their world into smoldering rubble. Legend has it the Espers destroyed themselves and most of humanity. Magic disappeared forever. Centuries have passed, and a rational world now exists with Espers living only in myths. Suddenly, after an incident, an ancient frozen Esper is unearthed. There are reports of magic attacks on civilians. Imperial commandos launch raids using magic-powered Magitech weapons. Magic is obviously alive, and the world is in danger again. Who or what is behind the rediscovery and redeployment of this legendary power? What chaotic plan will wreak havoc on this orderly world? 800 Wii points. Coming out for Nintendo eShop and Nintendo DSi, where we have Moto Extreme for $7.99, $8, or 800 DSi points. Defy gravity, perform awesome stunts, and navigate crazy courses in the most extreme Moto X biking thrill ride. Go extreme in this Moto X biking thrill ride. Defy gravity. They're saying the same thing over again. I'm just going to move on here. Boardwalk Ball Toss, coming out for 200 DSi points or $2 on the eShop. Experience the fun and excitement of playing your favorite carnival games at the boardwalk. Sounds like a cheaper version of carnival games for the Wii. And finally, we got a couple more things. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. We have Heart Spades Euchre coming out for DSiWare and eShop. DSiWare, 500 DSiWare points or $5 on the eShop. 3 card game classics in one pack. Heart Spades Euchre offers some of the most popular card games in one collection. You can modify the rules of each game and set the difficulty level of AI from beginner to pro. Challenge your friends in local multiplayer game. Each copy of the game supports up to 4 players. So you can play with grandma. Okay. Moving on, we have The Lost Town The Dust. 500 points on the DSiWare or $5 for eShop. Blood, Silence, and Fear soak this lost town. Can you make it through the night? In the year 2037, a small remote town in the South American Andes is cut off from the outside world by a mudslide. After a full week of heavy rain, a power outage causes a massive explosion at a biochemical military facility located in the outskirts of the town. A beautiful girl named Chilia with red hair and deep eyes emerges from the darkness. Possessing incredible combat skills, you must use her abilities to find survivors before nightfall. Other objectives include setting traps, collecting items, and using various weapons to defeat unknown creatures. The more you battle, the more skills you gain. The danger level increases at nighttime, so you will need the help of survivors in the camp to protect it for a course of 7 days. While you wait for the rescue team to arrive, you must fight off the vicious creatures that are starving for their next meal. Kirby's Dream Land is coming to the 3DS Virtual Console for $4. Someone has stolen from the inhabitants of Dreamland. It's Kirby to the rescue. Kirby's debuted video game has been re-released for the Nintendo 3DS system. Dreamland is in peril. An evil king has stolen the magical Twinkle Stars. If they're not recovered, the people of Dreamland will starve. Join Kirby, our cute and roly-poly little hero, as he runs, jumps, floats, and swims in search of the treasured Twinkle Stars. He'll puff his way through castles, caves, dungeons, and forests. There are many wicked and greedy enemies in his path, but Kirby has a special way to defeat them. It's non-stop action all the way to the top of Mount DDD. Coming out for WiiWare, we have Big Town Shoot Up for 500 Wii points, the ultimate cowboy gun game for 1 to 4 players. Howdy, partner, and welcome. Okay, that's Goonie. It's a shooting game. And that's it for Nintendo downloads. Let's talk about Nintendo in a much less, a worse fashion, we'll say. Have you guys heard of Operation Rainfall? Operation Rainfall is a grassroots campaign to have 3 RPGs for the Wii localized to North America. They are known as Xenoblade, The Last Story, and Pandora Tomorrow. As far as I know, Xenoblade itself is actually already translated to English for release in Europe, but they had no plans to release these in America. So Operation Rainfall is a grassroots campaign to get Nintendo to pay attention and realize that we want these games. If they want to get back to the hardcore, the core of gamers with the Wii U, they have to start now with the Wii and localize these games. Well, after thousands and thousands of signatures on petitions, comments on their Facebook, and letters sent to them, this was their response. Thank you for your enthusiasm. We promised an update, so here it is. We never say never, but we can confirm that there are no plans to bring these games to the Americas at this time. Thanks so much for your passion and for being such great fans. So basically, thank you, we love you, please submit yourselves to us so we may shit on you. Eat our shit! Eat Nintendo's shit! I'm very passionate today, aren't I? Sorry about this, guys. I usually try and remain calm when I'm recording the VMX show. But this is some fucking bullshit! There have been over 7,000 comments on that post. They are not stopping. Operation Rainfall is in full effect. Check out their website, their forums, their Facebook page. Mail Nintendo. Let them know you want these games. And they're called Xenoblade, The Last Story, and Pandora Tomorrow. Look them up on YouTube. These are really cool games that we want for the Wii. So, that's another thing to talk about. Here's some news coming out of BioWare. this is news to nobody who is intelligent. Mass Effect 3 will not be the last game in the series. Of course, they've always said, oh, it's a trilogy, it's a trilogy. People think everything is a fucking trilogy and that everything has to stop with number 3. You gotta be fucking stupid to think that way, but apparently 1 out of 4 Americans is retarded, according to South Park, and I think they're right. Mass Effect 3 will be the last chapter for Commander Shepard, but there will be more Mass Effect games after Mass Effect 3. So, there you have it. Here's a quote from, what a name on this guy, Ray Muzica. I think that's how you said his name. He says, we do have a desire to continue the Mass Effect franchise, and we're working on the details, figuring out what the fans want, figuring out the right way. Let me lay it down for you guys. You know when the series will end? When they stop making money. That's when it'll end. Good news for fans of Limbo, which is a great little indie platformer for Xbox 360 coming to PlayStation Network. So people who don't have Xbox 360, they have PS3 or PS Portable, and we're looking for it, and they're like, I want to play it, but it's not on PSN. Well, now it's going to be on PSN. Bethesda has come out that they will support the Wii U and PlayStation Vita. No news yet as to whether that means that Skyrim will appear on these consoles, but they just said, that they are planning on supporting these consoles, so that's going on as well. Here's a rumor coming out of Korea. They're the ones that, Korea, actually, a Korean website was the one that revealed that Limbo would be coming to PlayStation 3. Well, Crysis, everybody's favorite graphics horror first-person shooter, will be coming to Xbox 360. It was previously PC only. I think that it's because Crysis, Crysis 2 has already been out. I mean, I think it's just taken so long to get Crysis on Xbox 360, probably to get the game to work for that system. Boy, oh boy. Iwata, the president of Nintendo, he had, Satoru Iwata, that's his full name, he had a bit of a lambasting at a stockholder meeting, and one of the shareholders said perhaps the dumbest thing you could say at a Nintendo shareholder meeting. He said, I'm concerned about the falling stock price. I own stock, but I don't own a single Nintendo product. I believe games are a waste of time. By the way, the reason I own Nintendo stock is because the name is nice, it's in Kyoto, and it was listed in the year of my birth. So basically, this guy bought stock in a company he knows nothing about, in an industry that he doesn't believe in, only because he likes the name Nintendo, and they went public on the year that he was born, so I guess he thinks it's lucky. So this idiot decided to stand up and make an asshole out of himself at a shareholder meeting, and Iwata said, there are people in this world who don't feel that games are a waste of time, so Nintendo continues to exist. We'd like to eliminate the thinking that playing games by yourself is negative, or when there's a crime, you immediately tie it into games. We'd like to raise the social importance of games. We're working to expand the gaming population, yourself included. This same idiot also followed up with a question. He questioned whether Nintendo gave enough charity to the recent victims of the Japan earthquake and tsunami. And Iwata responded with, during the Tohoku earthquake disaster, I believe people in the evacuation centers were lacking in exercise. Oh, this is what the original guy said. Why didn't you bring Wii Fit to them? Why didn't you show off to the media that you're doing more for the victims? So Iwata explained that they did in fact provide much-needed items to areas affected by the disaster. They provided to evacuation shelters. They simply didn't feel it necessary to publicize what they've given. As a matter of fact, Nintendo does have a policy in place specifically aimed at not getting the media involved in those sorts of things. So, wow. Good for Iwata for shooting down this idiot. Well, that's pretty much the news. Let's talk about, it's July now, so let's talk about the games coming out in July. Now, there's not a lot coming out in July, but there are a lot of, some interesting games coming out in July. So let's go through. These are the video games being released in North America in the month of July 2011. On July 5th, we'll see the release of Earth Defense Force Insect Armageddon for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and NCAA Football 12 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. July 19th, we'll see the release of Captain America Super Soldier for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii, DS, and 3DS, and Call of Juarez The Cartel for Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360. July 20th, we'll see the release of From Dust for Xbox 360, and July 26th, we'll see the release of Catherine for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, The Cursed Crusade for Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360, and El Shaddai Ascension of the Metatron for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. That's the game I'm interested in. If you guys haven't seen this El Shaddai game, you gotta fucking check it out. But I'm gonna end the show, as I always do, with the sales figures, so let's get to that. So here we have the top 10 best-selling games in America for the week ending in June 25th. At number 1, we have The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D for the 3DS. It sold 215,124 copies. Fear 3 for Xbox 360 sold 71,366 copies. Mario Kart Wii for the Wii sold 61,865 copies. Zumba Fitness for the Wii sold 54,758 copies. Dungeon Siege 3 for Xbox 360 sold 51,787 copies. Wii Sports Resort for the Wii sold 50,611 copies. Wii Sports for the Wii sold 46,519 copies. Fear 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 42,596 copies. Wii Fit Plus for the Wii sold 40,823 copies. And Duke Nukem Forever for Xbox 360 sold 38,550 copies. In Japan, we have the top 10 selling games. Number 1, we have Meruru no Atelier Arland no... You know what? I'm not going to... In English, it would be Atelier Meruru Alchemist of Arland 3. Boy, oh boy. That sold 81,303 copies. Steins Gate for PlayStation Portable sold 65,950 copies. Gundam Memories Tatakai no Kikuyu for PlayStation Portable sold 51,344 copies. Danball Senki for PlayStation Portable sold 36,789 copies. Zelda no Densetsu Toki no Ocarina 3D, or Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, for the 3DS sold 36,715 copies. Tennis no Oji-sama Goyutu, Doki Doki Survival Umi no Yami no Love Passion. That's the full name. I'm going to say it again. Tennis no Oji-sama Gyotu Doki Doki Survival Umi to Yama no Love Passion. Let's Fighting Love Protect My Balls. That last part's me. That's on the DS, and it sold 36,006 copies. Bleach Soul Ignition for PlayStation 3 sold 24,725 copies. Ryu no Gotoku of the End, or Yakuza of the End for PlayStation 3 sold 23,500 copies. Wii Sports Resort for the Wii sold 9,892 copies. And Gloria Union for PlayStation Portable sold 8,646 copies. In Europe, we have Zumba Fitness for the Wii, sold 70,042 copies. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D for the 3DS sold 49,483 copies. Wii Sports Resort for the Wii sold 48,486 copies. Wii Sports for the Wii sold 44,237 copies. Mario Kart Wii for the Wii sold 40,088 copies. Pokemon Black and White version for the DS sold 35,432 copies. Infamous 2 for PlayStation 3 sold 28,961 copies. L.A. Noire for PlayStation 3 sold 28,437 copies. Wii Fit Plus for the Wii sold 24,614 copies. And Dirt 3 for PlayStation 3 sold 21,058 copies. For hardware sales in America, the top-selling console was the Wii, with 84,976 units sold. The Xbox 360 sold 70,011 units, the PlayStation 3 62,253 units, the DS 45,045 units, 3DS 44,822 units, and PlayStation Portable 18,736 units. In Japan, the top-selling system was, and this is close, but it was the 3DS. With 25,535 units sold, the PlayStation Portable 27,338 units sold, the PlayStation 3 16,156 units sold, The Wii 9,785 units sold, the DS 8,084 units sold, and the Xbox 360 1,996 units sold. And in Europe, the top-selling console was the Wii, with 69,366 units sold. After that, we have the PlayStation 3 with 55,959 units sold. The Xbox 360 with 37,245 units sold. The DS with 36,982 units sold. The PlayStation Portable with 30,231 sold. Units sold. And the 3DS, 24,917 units sold. So, worldwide, the best-selling games were Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time 3D, Zumba Fitness, Wii Sports Resort, Mario Kart Wii, Wii Sports, Fear 3, Atelier Miruru, Alchemist of Arland 3, Pokemon Black and White, Wii Fit Plus, and Steins Gate. Worldwide, the top-selling consoles were the Wii, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, 3DS, DS, and PSP in last place. Again. But not in Japan. They're doing well in Japan. But there you go. That's our show for this week. A bit louder and more energetic than usual, huh? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next week. Hoping to get Kakeo Silverton on the show for next week, so I'm reaching out to her. Please come on the show and we can talk about this bill and you can answer some questions about it since you are a future lawyer. And hopefully you can set even more minds at rest. So we'll see you next week. VMX out.